what does solidarity look like? And I think you and I have kind of talked about this, as I'm going to say, as fellow brown bodies. I know we have very different histories. And at different times we have worn the label of Indian as well. And so I know we've had some conversations about that as well. And really curious about, from your perspective, like what does solidarity look like across movements? What does it look like for, folks who are watching and wondering, again, and you talked about education, how important that is. And I really invite folks, if you're not familiar with the calls to the truth, from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, to really familiarize yourself with those. But as a starting point, but I'm curious, like when you think about solidarity, especially in this moment, especially considering the year we've had with the uncovering of Indigenous children's graves on residential residential institutions across the country. I'm just curious, but what does that mean to you? What's the opportunity? What does it mean?
Great question. And I like how you didn't call the residents and the institutions schools, because, I don't know very many schools that have graves on them. And if you stop and think about that, how horrific that actually is, that there are graves. And so it is really an importance about looking at that solidarity and looking at the that truth and reconciliation and diversity and equity and inclusion is about the and, not the but. It's about the and what can we do together, and how can we make this a better world. And I think with George Floyd and that very public viewing and understanding of what happened to George Floyd and the pain that has left this world because of that, and then the uncovering of the bodies on that institution, and then the continued finding of bodies. We're only beginning that. I think that was the first time that I can think about in my tenure doing this work. And certainly there has been people before us in the 70s who were very prolific in protesting what was happening to Indigenous people, and of course Black people as well in Canada. But I think with those two things, it was the first time I really recognized a huge coming together of Indigenous people and people of all races coming together and standing up together hand in hand in protest and in solidarity to bring forward the truth of Canada. And so I think there's no time in Canada's history for us to move forward together. And that includes non-Indigenous people, non-Black people, for all of us to say, hey, there's a truth here that we need to uncover that we don't really know about. And I think about that, especially in the community I'm living in now, Halton, that there must be more here than just a stop on the Underground Railroad. There must be more. What is it can we learn? And who really are the traditional people of this land? And what did they bring forward? And how did we land here? So yeah, I think solidarity is important. And I think it's really time for inclusion and that sense of belonging. And that comes from understanding who we are as people. And unfortunately, for so many Indigenous people, they don't have that connection to community. That the colonial policies of the Canadian government has actually worked. That those residential institutions that were designed to take the Indian out of the child, to break spirits, to stop language, has actually worked. And there's so many people out there who know that they are connected, but they don't know who they really are. And when you don't know who you are, how do you belong? There's always that kind of sense of loss, right? And so it is incumbent upon all of us to understand that and help each one of us on our journey to learn and to find out more. I belong to to Peeksies First Nations Facebook page. And almost weekly, there's somebody who says, I know my mother was a band member or my father was a band member, but I'm seeking my people. Who are my relatives? So this is really a time where the next generation who's coming after me are really looking to be included and to understand who they are.